And welcome to another exciting adventure of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight's guest, I will take a moment and just say a special thank you to because I would not be one doing this show or be aware of what I know if it wasn't for him coming forward. And so, a huge heartfelt thank you to my guest for having the courage to step forward and take on unbelievable amounts of pressure and all kinds of drama. So, thank you for that. And with that being said, you all are in for a huge treat tonight. And normally I would hand it over to my guests who introduce themselves, but this is his third or fourth appearance. So, if you want his intro, feel free to watch a prior episode. And I'm going to turn it over to my amazing guest to get us started. So I give you the one, the only super spaceman extraordinaire, Tony Rodrigues.
Thanks, Michael. That was a I don't know if I deserve all that or not, but thanks. I appreciated it. And I didn't know that that was the case. That I was like one of the first. I don't know, for whatever reason. But how you doing?
I'm
Thanks
doing
for
well.
be back.
And I'm glad to have you back on. And for those of you who don't know, before we get started with tonight, I have a little announcement that I'm going to make. And Tony isn't totally aware of this, but he knows of it. And that is next month, Alex Collier, my friend, had said to me, "You know, Michael, I have never done a podcast with Tony Rodrigues." And I said, well, let's make that happen. And so coming in May will be Alex Collier, Brad Olson, and Tony Rodrigues on the same show at the same time. So I just wanted to plug that so that when we are talking, I don't miss out on that and we get caught up in everything and we miss the opportunity. So, and I gotta admit, I'm a little nervous because I'm talking to Tony Rodrigues, and this is he's a really cool friend and a great person, but it's also like you're talking to someone who's helped you grow, and it's sometimes you just get caught up in all of that and you're like, you need to take a moment. But what it was is I had mentioned this before, is I had heard you talk at the first GSIC, and I was driving back with Alex, and I looked Alex in the eyes and I said, you know, a lot of Tony's story resonated with me and felt so familiar. I think I've done a 20 and back. And he goes, I think you have too. And so that's what got me started with this show and everything, was your coming forward and sharing resonated with me and opened me up to what was going on that I had no idea about.
It does that. It was the same for me. And when I first heard it, all the memories made sense all of a sudden. I think a lot of people, it's a widespread phenomenon. I'm not just like some unique guy that something happened. It's widespread. There are millions of people that have been participated in joint, either U.S. military or joint, Earth-based human corporate entities working with extraterrestrials, taking people for these programs, what we call the 20 and back, and other programs. There are a lot of women out there that have had the birthing, the hybridization program. There's a lot of witnesses for that. And that's another animal compared to what I talk about. But it does that. Every time I do a show like this, somebody new sees it and goes, oh, wow. Now the memories that didn't make any sense because they were all over the place. I had all these little fragmented memories, and I was different ages. and all these memories that didn't make any sense all of a sudden make sense, because we think that when we're abducted, people have a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people, millions of people possibly have memories of an abduction, of a contact, but then it goes away. There's nothing. They don't remember anything after that. They go, well, I don't know. And there was some weird stuff happened later in life. And then when you
Right.
mention that, you can be taken for 20 years and then put back the same night, then it opens the door for a lot of things to make sense with people. And I think, honestly, I think the first GSIC, I don't know how much I covered. I talked about slavery up there, how that affects the economy, how taking so many people, because people ask why would they put you back, and why wouldn't they just use a robot? Those are the three, and then I love the people that believe that it was screen memories without knowing anything about the story, or really without researching it much. They go, yeah, they just put screen memories in you. I'm thinking, yeah, because that makes a lot of sense, because I went on to be a floor refinisher. So that made a lot of sense for my whole 30 years for me to think aliens are real. That could really bang for your buck to put screen memories in somebody.
Right.
But
And I was gonna
go
say
ahead.
one thing that I think resonated to me, your story is, people come forward and they're like, "Oh, I was a super soldier. I was a pilot. I was an officer." And
The general.
and you come forward and you're like, "I worked in the bellows of the ship as a janitor." I'm like, "Who would make that up? If you're gonna make something up, why would you make yourself be the janitor?"
There's a grandiose thing. There's a telltale sign, and I think even a lot of people that are genuine, I think that there is a natural phenomenon just in our mentality, Americans, and I think just in general, people tend to fill out these blank spaces with things that are more grandiose than they really were. And so, I have some highlights in mind where I talk about doing well in there. But for the most part, I was slave labor, and I was treated treated like a prisoner. The way that we see prisoners get treated in our prisons was about where the bar was for how I was treated up there, and I think that's standard. It's a military ran society that I was part of up there. So
Right. And I have heard you talk on other shows that that's not your only experience. So it's not like you're cast as the janitor for all your 20s and backs. It can be different. And I think that's something that's important for people to hear and learn is, we're not splintered off in our minds, and our consciousness is now, okay, you're a pilot, you're always going to be a pilot, or you're this,
20
you're
years
always
is a
going to
long
be
time.
that.
I hate to interrupt. I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting you, but 20 years is a long time, and I don't think anybody really does the same job for 20 years straight. So you outgrow. You can perform really good when you're younger at more fast-paced physical things, and as you get older, you perform better at more decision-making things. And these programs don't waste any energy. They don't leave anything laying on the table. As soon as they can find somebody better for your job, they will, and they will find you to replace somebody else and do a better job at something. That's is. And like I said, at the first GSIC, I presented on the economy, because a lot of people, that's what I was saying about the criticism we get. Robots would do it. Why would they put you back? Why, they would kill you? And firstly, we don't have robots yet, but they're not going to be cheaper than people. So you can give people rice and beans for months, and they can go out. Robots, you have to plug into the wall and provide a great deal of power. And plus, the materials they're made out of, if you leave a bunch of people alone on an island and come back, there'll be more people there. So the robots don't do that. So right there, the human being is very, very, very energy efficient. We use, in a year's time, we burn the electricity that a 100-watt light bulb burns in 24 hours. I say that often because we are better than robots, and we're treatable. We are trainable, programmable, and we can innovate, and we make jobs easier over time for ourselves. This is a human innovation. So we're very good in terms of a robot, and we can't just be hacked. So once you hack one robot, you can hack all of them. Imagine an army of robots, and then some other force comes and figures out how to hack them, and now you've lost your robots, your workforce, and now you have enemies out of them. That doesn't happen with human labor. So the programs are hip to that, and that's why people are being taken. The other thing is taking you for 20 years and just giving you room and board, and you're on another planet. You don't have anything. They're not paying you. So it's slave labor, and that also affects the economy. And in GSIC, I gave an example of like an aircraft carrier. We pay X amount of dollars for it. I don't forget the numbers. I researched it for that presentation.
It was
We pay all the money.
like $10 billion, I think, for a
Yeah,
carrier.
it's a gajillion. It's a lot of money. It's a ridiculous, unimaginable amount of money. But we also pay for people to dig the steel and process the steel and the parts and the chips and the radar and the airplanes. All those things, we're paying people just to extract those materials. So that's in the human cost. Then it gets built, and then it gets manned by people that are getting a paycheck, 5,000 people, this aircraft carrier. So it's billions and billions of dollars. But if you take all of the labor out of that, it's less than half across the board. And so one of the main people that the famous researcher out there says the economy of the secret space program doesn't make sense. He said, where's all this money coming from to build these ships? And my direct response is because they're using slave labor. They're not paying for the labor. It costs a lot of money to build an aircraft carrier because you have people that are highly educated, nuclear scientists working on the reactor, engineers and electrical. You have all these professions before you even get to the manual labor. They are using robots for the high-end stuff and AI for the nuclear physicists, and they're using people from 20 and back for the manual labor. It doesn't cost them much. And they're probably stealing resources from other planets to build these things, these spaceships. So that's a good example, I guess, in metaphor of why they would do it.
Right.
The other thing is,
I was going to say on your, comparing us to a battery, that was one of the scenes in the Matrix movie that I felt like was so truth disclosure, but went over everybody's head that a human is like a AA battery?
Yeah, well, we give off a lot of heat and they keep us alive. Bio life is very efficient at converting energy. Life in general is the most efficient way to convert energy, I believe, because we're very efficient. The other thing is, why do they put you back? So everybody goes, well, and people are usually, when people comment on the YouTubes, they're usually mad and call me names. Like, why would they even put you back? They would kill you. They wouldn't give you their secrets and put you back. Well, they're very good at erasing memory. There's a lot of things I don't remember. For one, I'm very unique or rare in the fact that I do remember as much as I do, enough to make a book. For one, for two, and for three, it's genetic. So not everybody can go. The technology to take you and whatever they do, clone you or whatever, move you back and forth in time and move to another dimension and then back again and do this work, has a genetic marker. Not every human being alive on the earth today can participate in these programs. So when they do find people, and we see the same common denominator in literally everybody that comes to me and says that they believe that it happened to them, we find the same stuff. Mom and dad in the military, lived near a military base. Grandpa was in this high security thing in World War II. It's the same thing. Once they find the genetic marker, they follow the family. So they put you back so that you'll have kids. You do your 20 and back when they go, man, he has the marker and he did good. He performed well. And they're going to watch your kids and go back with it. You don't cut down the apple tree. So a lot of people, their argument of why don't they just kill you? That's the answer to that.
Well, and there's also the factor of why kill somebody when you can go back in a year, take them and have another 20 and back and have them do another job for you, send you
Some
back.
people can.
It's an unlimited workforce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people have the genetics to go multiple times, and we have very credible people out there that have said that. I gotta say, I'm pumped up about that show in May. I haven't hung out with Alex in a long time. I really look up to Brad too. That's my joke. Brad is someone I really look up to.
I
He's
know.
like 7 feet tall or something. He's very, very tall. But
I
Brad
always
does a
introduce
lot
him
of
as
work.
a giant among men, and then I'm like, and then I'll laugh and I go, actually, it's literal, but also symbolic.
Seems like he's everywhere all at once. He's the most hardest working man in this field, and he's very well connected and very, very accomplished. For one, and then Alex is a great. He was doing this before it was cool, and he was doing it when it was really dangerous. So, and has um, excellent information from the A's, and he's just somebody. Alex is a living legend. So, I'm tickled too to be. I just want to sit around and listen at that in May at that show. So I'm glad you put it together, man.
Yes, and I do, not to toot your horn any, but you are amongst them as well. You do a lot. You have a lot of work that you're doing, and a legend amongst others with your stories. So, don't discount yourself and, thinking they're higher up. We're all on the same plane. It's just some people have more experience than others.
It's true. I gotta say, this year, for last year and 2 years before that, I was on the road a lot. I did a lot of speaking engagements, and I I was just honored to be asked. So I said yes to all of them. And this year, not so much. So I'm kind of backing away from the speaking circuit. I'm going to do a couple of the bigger shows, and but I'm not doing the speaking circuit as much. I've got other things that are coming together. Projects that I started from my memories are starting to really materialize. So things that were on the drawing board that I was working on, they go, oh, this will be great one day. They're starting to really take shape, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm really hopeful that I can, I guess, make it to the next level with them all. But I've got a bunch of technologies, and the remote viewing is taking an incarnation. We've really turned a corner in my remote viewing groups on Patreon. Tell this to anybody, if you ever wanted to learn remote viewing, I teach it. Come on out, because I think there's going to be a day when all the remote viewers on my channel are making money doing it, and I'm going to move away from teaching it. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So a lot of things are really taking root that I started 3-4 years ago.
And that brings up an interesting question I was thinking about, and I don't know that you've ever really addressed, and maybe you have, because I'll be honest, like, you were everywhere, so it's hard to watch everything you've done. But when it comes to the remote viewing, do you feel it was a side effect of your 20 and back, or you were chosen to do the 20 and back because you could remote view?
It was totally a side effect. It was something that it was. They took us kids when I was first taken. The very first place I went was um, in Yukern, and was a remote viewing and psychoenergetics research program. And that was the very first stop. And I was there for about 10 months, 9 months um, for that program. And then they moved me on, and I did the service in Peru where they were drugging me and doing remote viewing that way. I was being near death, like being drugged, and I would speak. And I remembered a great deal of that, but not really. When I got my memories back and I started speaking and I was on shows and things. But then in 2023, I went there, physically went back and found the building exactly how I remembered it and exactly how I described it publicly. So it's like I made everybody else a witness, and I didn't know the building was there, and went and found it. But being there, my doggy, being there, the same humidity and smelling it and hearing the sounds and everything really jogged a lot of new memories. And I remembered a lot of the remote viewing stuff and the psychoenergetic stuff that we were doing. And when I got home from that trip, I started researching it a lot. And I thought, oh, this is something here. And then when I started doing it, I started doing remote viewing. I went, whoa, it's like I already knew it. And so I had my Patreon groups. I was doing once a week, like on Tuesdays. We did like a synchronized meditation for everybody, like a manifestation group, for lack of a better word. That word's kind of played out. But it was a group like that, and we started doing remote viewing there, and I thought, man, this is something else. People are getting it, and I can give pointers and they do it, and this is a lot of fun. So I started the groups, and we started learning everything we could about remote viewing and doing experiments. And I was the first one publicly to put out that you can do blocking. You can block remote viewing, that there's methods for that. And anyhow, now it's on another level. Like we've uncovered a lot of other really good stuff with it. And anybody can remote view, Tammy. So there was a friend of mine that's a great question. There was a friend of mine, and remote viewing doesn't open the gateway to hell or either. So a lot of people think you're going to invite demons in. It's not the case. You remote view all the time anyway, whether you realize it or not. When you have a hunch and you'll go, you know what, I think it's down this aisle, and then it is. That's the same phenomenon as remote viewing. We just do it in a structured manner to exercise that ability of intuition. That's all it is. But a friend of mine was like, he was in the group and he said, Tony, I want to join your new group. He wrote me sideways. He's like, just so you know, I drink brandy and smoke weed every day. And I can't meditate. I'm not meditating, and I am not going to be remote viewing. But I, like you and everybody else, I'd like to come to the meetings. And I was like, okay, I appreciate your honesty. And I said, but give it a try. I was like, don't come and not do it. I was like, the worst case scenario, when you do attempt to remote view, you're meditating for 10 or 15 minutes. And that really does wonders for your health in general. It's healthy to just, but I'll be damned, it took him about 5 weeks and he was getting the target. Even with the substance abuse, he was still remote viewing. So some people come in and don't apply themselves, or some people have, preconceived notions about it and have a hard time. But everybody, I find that it's about the 5 or 6 week mark. People that join, we have meetings every Sunday. We do 2 targets a week during the week on your own. And then we have the meetings and talk about it every Sunday. And right around that 5 week mark, people figure it out and they start really getting the accurate data. And there's a lot of misconceptions. People think the remote viewing is tell me about my childhood and you write me a 1,000-page essay because it's that much data. It's not the case. Remote viewing is like deciphering a dream about the target that you dreamt about it, but it was like in my dream, it was a giant, Ferris wheel with a horse thing. But in reality, it was a tiny figurine. Do you get what I mean? Like that, you dream
Right.
things precognitively all the time. Remote viewing kind of can describe the same way, but there's a few different versions of it, a few different ways to do it, and we really figured out a lot, and we do really good. Some of the remote viewers, I'm shocked at how well they do it.
And the reason I asked you about it, if it was a side effect or not, is because when they're wiping the memory, it seems strange to me to give you an ability to see what's not there. And it's like, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? If you can remote view and go, oh, here
That
I'm.
that program and the extreme measures they did with my consciousness, I want to say higher self, or they did things that were, I was tortured to the point of psychic ability. Make no mistake about it. Like they were trying to say for national security what was the maximum they could get. So they took young kids they thought were clones, probably was a clone, who knows, and they threw the book at it. We tried the maximum thing, and I think that they might have, somebody once told me a psychic did a reading on me, and said they opened doors in me that should have never been opened during that program. And get into detail about how they did it, but I think that might be one of the reasons I got my memories back. The trauma that I went through let me access that part of my mind even after it was all said and done.
So, do you think remote viewing is just something some of the SSP uses, or do you think all the programs use remote viewing and that's why it's becoming as aware as well as everyone coming forward and saying, hey, I have memories of these programs now? And remote viewing seems to be coming on the rise at the same time. Are they working together or are they
I think it's
separate?
funny, a lot of SSP people come out and they're doing remote viewing, albeit not in protocol. So a lot of people are doing remote viewing, but not under the official protocols. And so there's a lot of wiggle room in what they're saying. A lot of people are saying things that I don't think are coming from a legitimate remote viewing session. But it may be common learning in the program. Like I didn't go through a lot of school up there. They trained me to do my job for 6 months. My dog's gonna be barking for a while. The neighbors are walking by. This is gonna last about 2 minutes. But I think that I think that it might be something, but I don't think that everybody up there got trained in remote viewing. I really don't.
I would agree because one of the things that when I was first talking about programs and saying, I know I was in some, but I don't have recall of which ones. And I would say to people, but you have to realize you had people who were on the bridge of the ship. That's where they operated. That's where they were. They didn't go down to the mess hall and be like, hey, super soldiers, let's hang out.
No.
It's like the bridge stayed with the bridge, super soldier stayed with the super soldier, custodial stayed with the custodial. So there's all these different branches that could be in the same ship, but they'll never talk to each other because you're trained not to.
That's absolutely right. And there was a lot of things like I was on a ship for years and didn't see half of it. I didn't have clearance to go. I didn't have security clearance to go into the middle of the ship and just go walking down those hallways. I wasn't allowed. I was only allowed to take hallways that I needed. And a lot of people, the genre is really bad. So the information from people that have come forward has really clouded up the water, so to speak, from testimonies. And I might be one of them that did it. But a lot of people are coming forward, and like you said, one suspect thing is when they come out and paint themselves a hero, because pretty much everybody got abused, and people that were super soldiers that did soldier missions saw things. Nobody went up there and was a super soldier, and it's not fair to say nobody. Most of the people that went up there and did soldier work saw combat in a very gory way. And so when they come back and there's a guy out there now that says the SSP thing, and he talks about I went through MK Ultra and I was tortured, and he says it almost like he's proud of it. And if you really went through these things, like some of the things that I went through in Inyokern, when I look back on it, it still hurts to talk about. And so when people just make it nonchalant about being tortured or MK Ultra stuff, I that's a major red flag for me. And but I don't think that they're not genuine. I think that they have this much memory, and to make it make sense, that it gets painted on. So a lot of people that I think are lying about their testimony, I still think that they had something happen. If that makes sense.
It does. And one of the things I say to people is, I can get why you'd want to fake being a lawyer or fake being a doctor because you get big bucks and you can get a pension at the end, or fake being a military person, as horrible as that is, because there's a pension. But in the programs, you don't get a dime at any stage. So why would you want to fake being a part of that? Because there's like no medals, there's no glory, there's no accolades. It's not like we have ribbons that says, "Oh, I did 3 tours in space."
Yeah, that's true. We definitely do not get the parking spots. The other thing is when people come to me, I like I said, I don't want to throw shade on people, but I see it a lot. I get messaged a lot. I get life stories. People just call me out of the blue on Facebook. It'll just start ringing like with no hello or anything. Like I'm not going to answer that. But there's a lot of people that I don't know how to say it correctly. I don't want to say it. I don't want to throw shade at people, but there's a lot of people that I say it like this. When I read their story and they go, "Look, I was the commander and they moved me up there and then I was in charge of this and that and I had all these people and then we fought the war and I was a general and killed Draco hand in hand." And they give you these big stories about how awesome they were. I go, "What do you do now?" And they're like, "Well, I work at 7-Eleven." And I'm just making that up, but I'm like, if you're a command up there where the best of the best go, and the people that are still up there are literally in the know of everything, like uninhibited access to technology, I got to think that you would be along that par down here as well. And I have met people that were very genuine. They didn't want to talk about it, and when I talked about what they do in there, they're very influential in their life down here too. So you tend to see the same performance in both lives. And so people that tell you that they're performing here in their regular life down here, and they're up here with their space stories. I saved the whole universe. Me and a couple guys saved the universe a bunch of times, and then I had my own giant juggernaut spaceship, and I had a command crew. I had all these dudes. They were the wolf robots, and they did what I said. And then and then they're just living in a trailer park down here. Like it doesn't match up. Like it has to make sense. And a lot of people have left. Not sadly these days, people have left logic out of their testimonies.
Well, another way that I look at it too is, and I know a lot of great mediums and psychic people who, can read information, but I don't put 100% story behind it. Like if somebody was to say to me, "Oh, you operated in Antarctica," I'm not going around and putting on my resume, "I was in Antarctica,"
Somebody told you.
because I don't have a memory to go with it.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the stories come from, is someone tells them something and they run with it.
I think a lot of that is opposition, is disinformation on purpose. I think they literally have people in our community that tell people like, "Hey, you were in the space program. I know it. I'm a psychic and I can do this." And there are people that are literally working for contractors for their agents. It's a disinformation campaign. There are other podcasts that are ran by people that are CIA. I'm telling you, there's disinfo all over the place in this community because it's the biggest secret ever kept. The UFO secret. It's the biggest secret ever kept. So they're all over the place here. But disinfo is real. And then you're exactly right. You can't just go and base your life on what somebody else taught you on a hunch. And another thing is, a psychic medium or a remote viewer or a psychic clairvoyant, whatever psychoenergetics phenomenon goes through your brain in a certain pathway of logic. And it's abstract. It's like I said, it's just like trying to figure out a dream. You have dreams that while you're dreaming, it makes total sense. You just appeared and all this weird stuff happened. And during the dream, it's normal, right? Of course, Cadillacs can fly, right? I can drive it up the wall as my Cadillac. And then you wake up and you go, "Man, that was a wild dream," because it's unreal. It was totally not in the world. Psychic interpretation is the exact same way. It's the same medium. I always call it, I describe it like a membrane theory, which is still alive and well, but it's almost like a peanut butter sandwich. And so we live in the bottom. There's a piece of bread and there's a layer of peanut butter and another piece of bread, peanut butter sandwich, and it's being grilled. And the one on the grill is the reality we live in. That piece of bread is time space that we live in, and it's got entropy because it's burning. It's got heat. The peanut butter is the medium in between that remote viewing and solubility takes place. And once you get out of time space, you can access both pieces of bread at anywhere at any time. It's the peanut butter. It's a membrane in between two universes. And then after that, you get this other universe, which is the dream space and the fifth. I hate the word 50, but it's another universe that has different laws of physics because it's not on the grill. It doesn't have the entropy. So that's kind of the situation we're in. And I'm basing this off my remote viewing research, how, trying to understand the science of how remote viewing works. I don't have a lot of the science to say, but I do have data. I have mountains and mountains of data for years now of remote viewers from me doing targets under certain circumstances, certain versions of targets, certain versions of how to remote view. And we see things looking at the future or the past or far away or the present or right here at this moment. I've done experiments with all these things, and it lets me know that there is absolutely perception outside of time space when you remote view. And all of it is along the same lines. All psychic mediums they do a protection and they do a meditation. And that's the warm up. You got to shut off your logical mind because your right hemisphere is kind of always plugged in and listening. You're always dreaming. You don't go to sleep and start dreaming. You're dreaming right now. Part of your brain, one stack out of the stereos, a stack of stereos, one of them is on the channel of dreaming still, because that is actually your consciousness in the peanut butter. I would say it's still there. It never left. You're always dreaming, and in the middle of the night, the rest of your brain shuts off, and you can finally hear the dream. That's really my theory from what I've worked on. And
and to me, I think what's needed is if you do, like, I do have friends that can read, information like that, but I know that what they tell me, if it resonates with me, I put it in like a file, and when I have time, I'll sit and I'll be like, okay, what does this mean to me? What is this? Why does this resonate to me? Is this really a part of me? And I'll go within and I'll seek. And if it is, I own it. And I'll get memory of going, oh, this explains this memory. Or if I get it and I can't tie it to anything, I just keep it filed away. And I'm like, well, maybe the memories aren't there yet. Or maybe it was never me. It was like you're saying, it was something else. But in order to explain it, they had to explain it this way. And so, but I never blindly just accept. I take what resonates, sit with it, go within. And when it doesn't resonate, I just let it go. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't meant for me.
It's got to make sense. So there's a lot of ufology that doesn't make any sense because there's so many levels of technology that we're dealing with. And we deal with ETs from all over the place, not necessarily the same groups, but it still has to make sense. So a lot of people can't make sense out of what happened to them. And it just doesn't give us much to prove the phenomenon to go on and support what they're saying. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. I've worked with thousands of people and did one-on-ones with them and, had questions and Q&A, and like 60% of them made sense. It was like, wow, this is exactly what I would expect. They had no idea of things they were saying were matching up with other people. So that's your number one go-to for proof, for validation, is if you're telling me something that only somebody else told me that you have no contact with, there's no way you could have known that. That works out, but a lot of people just don't have a lot of memory there, and they have contact, and we're dealing with so much of a wide berth of phenomenon.
Right. And One of the things that was interesting to me as well is I was talking with another person claiming to be MK Ultra survivor and sharing his story, and I shared with him when I was in elementary school, you know how you draw your imagination and you draw whatever comes to your mind. Well, I would draw a lot of times a mountain that had 3 layers in it, no doors, but there would be planes inside or vehicles inside, and I'd be like, "There's a base inside a mountain," and I could never understand why I would draw
That
that.
was his
And
doodle.
he goes, "Well, you're drawing it because you were there. You know it exists. You could only draw that if you knew it was real." I was like, there's a certain logic to that. Because why would you doodle a military base in a mountain of all things? It's like that's just too random, I think, to just be a flippant moment of because I
What
mean we got to
happens is,
think.
I was going to say, what happens is things like that start to repeat. So that's another thing that we really see is somebody always doodling an underground base, and then other things will begin to surface. Reoccurrent nightmares or odd memories that don't have place in your timeline that really didn't make any sense, but they're real. And when you start to really look, that's why the primary thing that I do with people that have reached out to me that feel like they've gone through the same thing is create a timeline. Because most people have, like you're telling me that, like most people have lots of different things that happen to them that don't make any sense. It's not just one night, right, of
Right.
weirdness. What there was one night I saw a craft that landed in my yard, and then I don't remember what happened next. It was just that night. That's not true. There's never a one and done. I go, no,
Right.
no, no, no. Let's go back before that. And it's never a one and done. It really never is. But what I found is that when you ask them, okay, now hold on, when were you born? Okay, mark that down. And I take my paper and I turn it sideways, right? And I go, they're born here. And I make a timeline. I go, what happened next? What did anything weird happen in your youth? Tell me what you remember. Well, when I was 4, my brother had this happen and he's blah blah blah. And then we saw a ghost or we saw something happen. And I remember weird, it was weird. I go, okay, 4, that was this year. And I look at the years. And I just build a timeline. You build a timeline of everything they remember. And after a while you start to see a cycle pop out. You start to see things happen at the same time for different people. At the same, or it repeats. And when I find something, major, and I think you and I talked about this before.
We have.
I look at the 20-year mark. I look at for an intake event, and they go, "Yeah, I was when I was about 9. That was when it happened when I saw somebody." And then I'll just tack 20 years onto it in my mind and go, "Well, that was in 1990. What happened in 2010?" And they go, "How did you know?" Because it's a cycle. Because in many cases, probably the ETs involved with taking us aren't. It's the same night for them, but it's 20 years different for you. They come and get you when you're 10 and put you back, and that same night for them, they go back and forward in time and get you when you're 30 and put you in the same laboratory and follow up on their experiment, and then put you back. So you had 2 different events, decades apart, that are funny. But really, the crew that took you, it was the same office day for them. We don't think like that. And so we start to see cycles like that. Or every 5 years, we see things happen, like really horrific bad luck happens on cyclically in certain people's lives as well. And I think that that's another function of ETs that are not friendly to us.
Right.
I think that's another thing that they do.
I'll share with you that, like, because we're talking about things that occur simultaneously, is in elementary school, not only was I drawing that image, but I would be very selective where I would spit because I would be like, I can't spit here because someone's going to come and get my DNA. They're going to take the DNA. The
You were
government's
you were
going to,
already thinking about that.
yeah. It's like
Wow.
my mind was like, the government or somebody's going to come behind. They're going to take my DNA. So I got to spit in a certain place in a certain way so that they can't use it. And I was like, what kid thinks about this?
It's weird. Yeah, it's true. It's like, where did that come from? Why did you even know that?
And I,
Like I said, weird stuff like that repeats on top of your doodle, on top of other things. Those things stand out. Those on their own, you look at it and go, "Well, it's not really great evidence." But after 50 of those, it starts to become harder and harder to just explain away when it keeps happening over and over to people.
it is. And I want to try and pivot a little bit with the SSP because a lot of people talk about the past to the present. And I want to get your opinion on like current events. Do people that are in the SSP have an innate ability to see through what's happening and be like, yeah, this is the proverbial movie. This isn't real. This is a fake story. This is reality. And is that because of the programs, or is that just we're just more aware than the normal
Totally.
person?
No, so if you were in one of these programs, if you were taken and did a 20 and back in the infrastructure in the oh wow. Wow, coincidence, right? See?
Yeah,
If you were taken into the infrastructure into space where ETs are there, you witnessed advanced technology. And we are not, I mean, we're doing good. We're advancing very rapidly, people of Earth. But if you witness that technology, um, you're aware of what they can do. Like when I came back, I knew that there would be TV screens everywhere one day, but I was taken in 82. There wasn't a lot of televisions like there are now. Right? Televisions were, it was still, everybody had one in a house back then,
right.
maybe
Because they
two,
were the
maybe mom
big
and dad.
boxes.
Yeah, it was a 27-inch was the big one. They were little. You had to get close to them. Everybody. Um, but I knew that TVs were going to be everywhere because I remembered it vaguely. I witnessed the technology. To answer your question about people that are aware, that see through the lies that we're giving, it's because you're aware that they're lying. Most people that fall for the stuff nowadays, they still think the news is uncorruptible. A lot of people honestly think that the news is held accountable for lying like they used to be. They used to be. The Smith-Mund Act was there. And so, but nowadays the news, and we were aware of it. So the people in the community, we're aware they can just make up anything they want. They can lie to you. And when you're scrolling, the other thing is we also have an idea of how far ahead of us they are. And most people underestimate the amount of psychology that is packed into your cell phone, for instance. So a lot of people just think that it's random and whatever, it's fine, and they're not. They don't care about little old me. They can watch my metadata. I'm not that important. But the reality is that they're in your head, the psychology that they have, and they can do many, many things, very slight things, and change the way you think about things without you knowing it. And people that once they realize that everything's a lie, kind of, or that it can be a lie, it might not be lying. The news tells the truth. They tell 80% truth and 20% lies, probably. There is still truth in there, so you can still mine for it. But there are people that just think that there is no manipulation in any way, shape, or form, and those are the ones that fall for it the most. And where do we see it nowadays? The younger generation, the kids that have been 100% exposed to screens their whole life. They're the first generation that have had a screen in their pocket their whole life. And so we see that's where the programming is the most dangerous right now.
Right. And for me, I kind of don't like the way that like Apple the phones work. To me, droids are easier. But I also, in the back of my mind, I had an experience where I was on an paranormal investigation and I was using an infrared camera, and all of a sudden this grid appeared. And so I was like, wow, I got this really cool paranormal, evidence. And I sent it to a friend and he goes, did somebody have an iPhone there? And I said, well, let me find out. And I got back to him and I said, yeah. He goes, that's a LiDAR that's built into Apple. I'm like, why does Apple need LiDAR being in their phones running 24/7
They can see
unless
everything
they're
in the room.
mapping? Yeah.
Yep. They can see everything, they can map everything, and it takes an infrared picture every 5 seconds of you, of the whatever the screen camera, the camera that's facing you. It takes a picture every 5 seconds, forever.
And what
And
was interesting too was I don't know if you're familiar with Jimmy Church a lot, but he on
I've
his show said Pokemon Go is totally a CIA psyop because they would put in government buildings Pokemon that you would go and take your phone in and go, "Hey, I captured this Pokemon." Well, not only did you get the Pokemon, but you also just mapped a federal building
yeah, you got
or
a picture of what
someone.
they wanted. They could put the Pokemon in front of the board. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and so I was like, that is really scary that you could walk around and just innocently walk through a building and somebody somewhere is getting this entire blueprint to do whatever they want to do with, and you are complicit in that crime because you're the one who walked through and mapped it for them
Right.
and
You were
didn't know it.
manipulated.
Right.
Manipulated through your entertainment. Yeah, that's just one instance. I mean, it's widespread. It's very well. So that's what I do. So I took it upon myself. I said, look, they're putting subliminals in our media. When you're scrolling and watching TV, it's prevalent really in the movie theater. That's where they work really good, the audio subliminals. But if you look up, you can Google Disney subliminals. You'll see some shocking stuff that's in the cartoons that they write. They put a visual sublims. But that's why I started Scion.com. I started using um, binaurals and isochronics that are tuned to Dan Winter's Cascade to the Planck. So they're already very effective, just binaurals. And then I add white noise that's turned into phased pink noise. It's based on Bob Monroe's work. Now I have the phased pink noise in the background. It's very powerful. It was in Bob Monroe's original patent for the Gateway series, but that patent ran out in like 2011, so anybody can use it. And I reprinted it. So I have that on top of the binaurals, and then music, so that you're kind of distracted. And then in some of them, not all of them, I have something called phased canceling subliminals audio of me saying things that are good for you, not trying to get you to vote a certain way or do so, eat Doritos until you puke. None of that. Like things like you're gonna win. It's all gonna work out for you. You need to believe this. And then like whatever for a successful mindset one, you deserve success. Like say things like that. You deserve it. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to work out, and it's going to come into place for you. Like these, I put affirmation subliminals in them, and they're awesome. People love them, and so whatever I made them just kind of kicking it around back a few years ago, and they sold. People were buying them, and so I took all that money and I redid the website recently. So it's up and running, and I've got a ton of other products that are going to go on that one. And then the Maple Street Learning one is going to be taken off here pretty soon. But that site with those is called Psion.com, Psion.com. There's my commercial. Let's snuck it in under the radar.
No, and one of the things, as you mentioned, like binaural, is people would, buy these apps on their phones and go, hey, I'm listening to this binaural, but it's not really doing anything for me. And I would
They're
be
not
like,
all equal.
well, you realize your phone is not binaural. You have one speaker on your phone, and they're like, well, the app says it'll run through the phone. I'm like, yes, and even I thought about this for a little while. I was like, yeah, HemiSync's not working so well on the phone. And then it dawned on me, yeah, I'm not using headphones. You have to use headphones to get
You
the
have to use headphones.
binaural.
So the isochronics can go on a speaker. So I have them layered both. The trick is you got to play with the volume, the gains when you run them both. Uh, but isochronics do entrain with one speaker in a slightly different way. So they have different things. Like I have a sleep aid one that you play while you're sleeping in a speaker, and a lot of people love that. So 1 out of 20 people won't like it because they're light sleepers. I tell people if you're a very light sleeper, it's not for you. But if you sleep with the fan on, or you can sleep with the light on in the corner, then you work fine. And most people like that. They report having really good dreams, really high quality sleep, and it's an isochronic pulse that schedules your REM sleep. It kind of brings you and down into REM, and it schedules it, and so you get into this routine of REM throughout your night, and it works. It works pretty good that way. But yeah, HemiSync with the binaural stuff, you have to be careful with because you can get kind of zonked out from it. So if you listen to one that's going to meant to for meditation to relax you, and then I say clearly on there, do not operate cars or heavy machinery listening to this. Some of them are the opposite effect. There's a mental performance one that's really good. It's a high pitched one, but it wakes you right up. And even I haven't finished it or listed it yet because it doesn't let you down. In other words, you listen to it, and then like 3 hours later, you're still kind of alert, zinging. It's like an audio espresso shot. And so I just don't know how to put it, what I'm going to recommend it for, if you should listen to one at the end to come down from it or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need a downer for after so many hours of upper. You need a downer to kind of level you back.
And it's just from audio. It just is a entrainment, a brainwave entrainment. So we all know that we get hyped when we hear really high energy music. You get pumped from it. It's an audio stimulation. So this one is more direct to the brain, and not all of them, but most of them I add music, so you can just put it on and listen to it through your day for whatever reason. They do really good. I'm very proud of that work.
And I'm kind of curious, because I know from musicians, certain hertz do certain things. And so, when you're looking at the music and putting it in there, do you write it to a certain
Those
frequency, or do you just
guys
say,
are light years behind us. The people in the solfeggio cascade are way off. I'm telling you, they're way wrong. This is a whole different cascade that I've tuned it to, and it's tuned mathematically. Whatever hertz it is, if you take it and divide it by the golden ratio and divide it again, it'll arrive exactly at the Planck distance. Even the time scales are like that. And so the binaurals are way, in my opinion, way more advanced than anything else that's out there. Dan Winter has his own app called Flame in Mind that uses the same cascade, and his all have a kind of a higher carrier wave. I have the full spectrum of carrier wave of human hearing. So I've cataloged all of them on the whole cascade, and then I mix and match for whatever I'm trying to do. And they're very effective. Like I said, I'm very proud of the work. You can sit around and brag about it all you want, but people that try them and like it are happy about it. And I've had people that tried it and liked it and didn't like them. Not many, but they're out there. The bottom line is that when you look at the subliminals and you look at the technology, no one is offering them for what's better for us. They're using them against us in our commercial breaks, in our movie theater breaks, in scrolling. We're getting all of this subliminal programming. And then all of a sudden something happens and you do something that you didn't, you impulse buy something stupid. You get mad at somebody and raise your voice over something that's stupid. What is this? I don't even know why I'm so upset. It's because you're being programmed slowly. They don't do it. It's not just one dose. You don't just listen to a song and you're programmed. They give it to you over time. And we are very, very, and there's endless clips of people acting the fool in the world today. And it's mostly programming. If you're doing it for politics, you're programmed.
And just talking about time, we are at the hour. I don't know if you have time to keep going or if you have somewhere to be.
I keep going.
Okay. And as we're talking about like subliminal, programming through commercials and stuff, I notice and I remember because I did a couple of shows on the KFC when they did the drone people and they dipping the guy in the gravy lake and he comes out of chicken
Yeah,
leg. And I was like, and you never see him anymore. It's like, did they realize that their subliminal messaging kind of backfired because everybody saw it for what it was and was
yeah,
like, wait a minute?
that was revolting. It's true. It was kind of revolting. I remember that commercial. I went, "What are they even thinking?" It wasn't even funny.
I know. And to this day, I have a KFC in the corner by my house, and I'll be like, oh,
Pass.
KFC sounds good. But then I'm like, but I don't want a dude that's been dipped in gravy chicken. And so, no, I'm not eating this. And I'll go somewhere else. It's like it deprograms me to want their food.
Or whatever, well, the other thing is they use a lot of shocking stuff nowadays. Like, how
Yeah.
many times do you scroll and you see something absolutely disgusting? What was that doing there? You know what I mean? You're
Oh,
scrolling,
yeah.
like I always, if I'm, like, looking at social media, I'm always thinking of the mind, like, I'm trying to eat. If I was eating, would it be okay to see this stuff? And I try to go through and close it and say I'm not interested in anything like that because gross stuff pops up in social media, and that is to shock you and put you in a state of fight or flight, and then they hit you with some kind of other subliminal thing. And so there are many methods for programming us, and sad to say, they work.
It
Yeah,
does. And I will say, like, TikTok, for as much as it is, I can scroll through shortly and I get like mainly my friends stuff and I'm like, okay, cool, moving on. But late at night when I'm like scrolling to pass time and just trying to numb the mind, I will always get this lady that'll appear and she's like, are you just scrolling to scroll right now instead of sleeping? And I'm like, are
yeah.
you watching me? Because that's exactly what I'm doing. And it's like, it's kind of creepy in a way because it's like, oh, or I will notice like one day I liked Lomelli's "The Never Ending Story" song, and for the next 3 days I was getting like 20 different versions of that song mixed into everything, and I was like, what? Why am I all of a sudden getting inundated with this song? You like a song, and then you get inundated with it.
I I experimented with social media once, and I thought, I'm seeing all these ads from things I was talking about, so I'm just gonna shop for and things I shopped for. So I went on Amazon,
Right,
and you look for something, and then all of a sudden it's in your Facebook feed, right?
right.
So for like 3 days, I'd shop for bikinis, and it was bikini models. My Facebook, I was like, "See, I pulled it off," and it was my experiment of testing it, and you have to be careful. There was one recently that I was just talking to somebody. Uh, that I was just casually talking to somebody about, and then it showed up in my feed. So it's programming. It's not about the advertisement. I don't think they convert a lot of sales doing this creepy stuff. I think it's more
Oh,
about keeping tabs on you and them knowing what sells right now versus what doesn't.
well, and what's interesting too is like my mom would go, "Hey, do you need these do you need pants? Because I'm looking at this site and they have a sale on." And I'll be like, "No." And then for the next 2 days, my Facebook ads, when they would have the ads up there, just in the
Pants.
middle of the screen, they would be about pants. And I'd be like,
So think,
where did this come from? Because I didn't search for it, but they heard her say to me, and it's like it somehow translated through.
think about what's in your feed and think about our kids because they're not aware. You and I are aware that they're trying to shove it down your throat. Like you're aware when I start seeing, if you like a certain political post, you'll start to see things that are
Oh, yeah.
make you look like you're radical if you like them, right?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know how to say this, and I'm not going to give examples, but basically, if you just go, man, that's wrong what they did, like, The next thing you know, within a few minutes, you're starting to see things that are like really radical. And I realize what's going on. They're trying to lean me to that side, or at least build a dossier of things that I've seen. They're trying to curb your intake so that after a while, that's all you think about is that political agenda and you're pissed off. You're mad about
Right.
it. So you want to do something about it. Like there's no way I'm voting for those other guys. And because you're upset, they tug at your anger. And look at our kids. The thing is, I realize it and it still gets through. It still works on me, but I consciously realize it. I want to say this about Scion is subliminal messages are almost not effective at all if you're aware that they're there. So they're super not effective. That's why they don't tell us. Because if
Right.
you're getting subliminally bombarded and you have no idea that you are, it works. It's very effective. So because of that, I tell people there's a subliminal, like in the FAQ and the about, if you go looking, it says subliminals and it'll say, look, the subliminals don't work. They're not effective if you read the script. But just so you know that we're not putting in anything that in the subliminal in our product that is negative, you could have a friend look over and I have the script of every subliminal message in all of the products. I have the library of scripts. You could read everything that I ever put in there. So there's full transparency and the ability to have it secret so that it works effectively. But I just say have a friend read it and make sure it's okay with what you guys believe in. But the thing is, they're not doing that. They're not doing that for our kids. We have no idea what they're telling us in subliminal, and you're not going to know it. I started out with just turning down the volume, and it was like you hear the little whisper, and you go, "Oh, there's another message he's saying." So I tried. That was like the basic, but then I got to military grade pretty quick, and you cannot hear it, and it's loud. So think about it like this: like I take my voice and say, Michael, I want you to walk around tomorrow and think that you're the man. You're the greatest thing that ever happened. You are the man. You're going to win everything you ever do tomorrow. And that's in my recording. And then it's a song that you're listening to and you have no idea. And at the end of it, you go, man, I feel pretty good. Right. So I take that and I invert it and phase it over. And I can actually turn the voice up, the mic where it's loud, where the speakers crackle, and you still won't hear it. Not consciously. You'll subconsciously hear it. Like I can turn that signal up where you go, man, this song is crackling. The music, it's not even loud because I turned up the volume on that track that you can't hear because it's phased. And you are getting it in that volume. It's actually super loud. You can't miss it. And that's the level of tech that we don't even realize that we're susceptible to that. And I'm telling you, that stuff works like a charm. I made one that you listen to while you're sleeping, and it has subliminals in it to tell you that you're going to dream about the future. And it works. After like 3 or 4 nights of it, people start having precognitive dreams. At least the people that have reported it to me. I haven't tested it with a lot of people. Let me put a disclaimer there. But it works. I
Actually,
started messing with it for myself. That's what I listen to for myself. I want to hear subliminals while I'm sleeping that tell me I'm sleeping good, I'm healthy, I'm going to get recovery. I'm going to dream about future opportunities that serve me the best. I want to see the future, because when you're dreaming, you're not in time space. It's the peanut butter. You have access to the peanut butter layer, and yes, are there absolutely, Danny Hogg, subliminals in the stores? You want to know the most obvious subliminal one that you can hear? The stores that's old news. Even in the 60s and 70s, they told everybody publicly there's subliminals. That's why they only played their own radio station, like
right.
Kroger's or whatever. Walmart has their own radio station that plays the music to their stores because it's got their subliminal messages in it. In the beginning when you sit down in the movie theater to watch a movie,
Yeah, let's go to the lobby.
that big loud
Oh,
noise.
yeah.
If you listen to it right when it fades off, it's only got like a second, a fade off. The noise comes up and goes, and it's loud. You're like, damn, right when it fades off, you can hear the sublims because they put it. And then what does everybody do right after they play that noise? They shut up. Everybody turns the phone off and sits there and is ready for the movie, almost like they were programmed.
And before we get to Danny's question, I had a thought from what you were talking about with the subliminals that we can hear it, but we're not hearing it. People that have like chronic headaches or migraines that just come out of nowhere, could that be their body is getting inundated with too many subliminals and it's can't process?
I got to tell you, there's so many things. There's 100 things it could be when somebody gets a big, like a migraine. It could be 100 things. Most of the time, I would start with electrolytes and work my way down the list of minerals and vitamins that you may be deficient. But I tell you what, especially with women, because they have a very complex physiology. So women experience this more, I think, than men do. It's very complex. And so, yeah, I worked at that. There you can induce it. So the other thing is the same way that there are hurts that make your brain sink, the hemisync, there are some that have the opposite effect. So there are hurts that I can play that actually are bad for you. So, and that's another advertising technique. While you're watching the show or listening to the music while you're driving down the road and you listen to the radio, and it's Michael Jackson, it's your favorite Michael Jackson song, my favorite song, but just for some reason it doesn't sound good. It's weird. This is my favorite song. I don't even like it. Oh well, I'll play it. You got to turn left up here, and then the commercials come on, and you go, because during that song they were playing a carrier wave, a slight carrier wave of ringing in your ear that was like fingernails on a chalkboard. And when the song is over and the commercial plays, they kill that sound, and you go, "Oh, there's a sale." I mean, because it sounds amazing. They play the opposite. They play the silky, smooth one under the commercial ad, and then now you're listening. Now they have your attention because the song was actually hurting you. So they can do that too. To get to Danny's question, how do you combat subliminals while you're walking through Walmart? Is headphones. Get some wired headphones to your phone and just put on some, something you trust. Put on some scion.com. Or maybe I'll make one for shopping. But the VLC player I download my stuff and then I use the VLC player, but you can make your own little playlist and make sure it's not streaming live. Like download it, find some MP3 versions. Spotify, I listen to Spotify a lot, but it's not everywhere that's connected to the internet has the ability to sublim you. And so if you can get some recordings that you trust, that's why I started the company. You guys, that's why I started it, because I was realized when my eyes opened and I thought, oh God, we are being programmed even at Taco Bell. Like I sat down for a taco, man, and I'm like, I feel like I want to flip political parties. What's going on here? And so that's why I started. I thought it's about time somebody uses this technology to do some cool stuff for us. What does it do that's cool? I have a ton of them. There's one for grief. There's one for healing that promotes healing. It has sublims in it. Like, you have a lot to do. You're going to heal perfectly. It tells you that. And when you believe that you're sick forever, you stay sick forever. So that's what that one does. The healer, it does healing, successful mindset, the grief one, working on a workout one, working on a deprogrammer one to stop the hypnosis. Like if you ever went to hypnotherapy and then realized, you go, man, I don't know if that was the right thing. I wish I could undo it. Like how many people get a tattoo and get it lasered? And so I'm making a deprogrammer, like an anti-hypnosis one to undo it, because we're all hypnotized. And so I'm working on that. What's the other one? There's a study one for when you're at school for memory and learning, and then constant problem solving and creativity. Like these are all 30-minute tracks that have music. You just put them on and walk around, and it's therapy. If you listen to it 21 times, the subliminal theme will stick. So imagine you wanted weight loss. You got to listen to it twice a week for whatever, for 3 weeks or whatever, 21 times at least. So I give a little prescription and it works. It's about getting your head right, because ask yourself this: how many of us do shit that's totally not in our own interest repeatedly?
Yeah. And what's interesting is, you brought up tattoo, and it reminded me the movie Starship Troopers, where they had this little beam of light coming and it's creating the whole tattoo on their arm. And now I've seen on, I don't know if it was TikTok or Facebook, where they put this metal clip around your arm, and then as they drag it down, an entire tattoo just appears on the arm. And everyone's like freaking out, going, wow, you just got a whole tattoo in like a matter of seconds. And I'm like, in my mind, looks at it and goes, one, is that healthy? And two, is that permanent? And three is, what did that just do to your arm?
They have a tattoo machine out now, like a printer, like it's a needle, and it's a machine. So you get actual digital quality tattoos. Like that's real.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
that's not fake anymore. That's not a movie thing anymore. That's real. There was one little point I wanted to finish up on that, but that's okay. I think everybody got my point on that stuff. Like I started working on that. Lately, in the last few months, I've been working hard on the remote viewing stuff, and we're putting together groups that are remote viewing sports games, so we can bet. I'm going greasy right now, so but I'm saying it works. So we've had stellar results at picking the stock market. You see these other groups out here that are remote viewers. The Farsight Institute did a crypto picking one. They were highly successful. I talked to guys that got wealthy doing it. The future forecasters, it's expensive to get in there, but they do crypto predictions. They've made a lot of millionaires. They claim like over 200 millionaires they made. We started doing it. Like, how are they doing this? And the groups we started, and I really, at the first couple times we did it, and I was like, wow, we're pulling it off. And then I had one where we were wrong, and I went, what the hell happened here? And I really, like, I went and got a bunch of books. Some of them were expensive books, and I really crushed it for like a month. I was just so upset because I had people counting on me, and I felt like I let them down. And we earned it out. And so it's not 100%, but we're in a very high percentile of accuracy of picking the stock market and picking sports games. So I'm starting a whole new group. They'll have a membership. It's going to be expensive at first, but for people that bet, it's not a big deal. And it gives you a really high increased probability of success by us. And we remote view on Wednesday for the game on Friday, kind of thing.
And I have an interesting question around that, because we talk about, like, if I was to remote view the moon, there's a chance that someone's going to remote view me, remote viewing the moon, and can mess with that. So, how can you keep someone from messing with you and going, oh, Tony's group is looking at the game and they think Boston's going to win? Well, we're going to make New York win now because we want to prove them wrong.
So there is a cat and mouse. There is blocking, actually. And knock on wood, we're doing the kind of the research on this method now, on blocking it this week. Like literally this week, we're doing a blocking experiment on one of these games. But there's a cat and mouse. So I wish I could draw it. I wish I could draw you guys the picture, but basically we look at it like this. I'm the targeter, and I'm going to make up a target in my envelope. I got envelopes right here. I have a little remote viewing making kit. So here's my blank envelope, and I write down on a piece of paper the Statue of Liberty. Okay. You don't know this, Michael, because it's secret. I'm writing it in silence, and I put it in the envelope, and then I put X123 on the envelope or some random stuff. Seal it and set it down. It says the Statue of Liberty in there. And then I train you, and you go through the CRV stuff. You do your meditation, create an audiogram, and you're probing it. And when you go through just kind of like the routine of remote viewing, and you start out slow and go, is it big or small? Is it hard or soft? Is it hot or cold? These kind of things. And there's just a meditative repetition of meditating that you do there, and a protocol. And then you start to see a little bit, and then it opens and opens and opens, and you can see, oh, it's a Statue of Liberty. And so that's kind of how it works. Now, if I want to block it, then I would attack the targeter, not you, not Michael, the viewer, but I would attack Tony, the targeter. And I would say, he told him it was X123. So I'm going to grab 10 envelopes, this whole box of envelopes, and I'm going to write the sun, a tsunami, the Empire State Building, an apple on my desk. And they're all going to be X123. So that when you go to remote view, not only is my target here, but you're like, I don't know, it's bright. It's like a bright sunny day. I'm getting a lot of sunlight, and it's a structure. It's a big thing, and there's an apple. It's got to be in New York because I'm seeing an apple, and it's the Empire State Building. So you're not, you know what I'm saying? You're not near the target that I picked. It's obscured, you know. So you can do blocking that way, and there's a little bit of cat and mouse that you can sidestep that if somebody were to block it, which I researched and I shut the F up about. Because when I wrote my book, Beyond Sight, which is in the other room, I'd like to hold it up, but when I wrote Beyond Sight, I did the blocking thing. And after that book got published, my groups got blocked. I was like, damn, our scores are down in the 9s. We've never been this bad. And it was like 4 weeks in a row. I thought, what is going on here? And then what I did was I moved the coordinates I was posting on my Patreon, where everybody, even the free members, could see the actual coordinate X123. The free people could see it. So I put it in the image that was blurry unless you were paying to see them. And then all of a sudden the scores went right back up. Somebody read my book and was ticked off and joined my Patreon for free and was doing a blocking thing every week. There were people blocking us on our targets. And so when I moved it to where they couldn't do it, it went away. And during that time, when I suspected, I went, oh, and I kind of, we do living room remote viewings, you know, to experiment here, you know, at home and when I'm with friends. And I experimented around with ways. There's ways to side. It's a cat and mouse. You think about it like, you know, you get a sword, so you get a armor, so you get a bullet, so you get thicker armor. So then you get a flamethrower. You know what I mean? Like there's a cat and mouse,
Right.
a chess game that goes on, and remote viewing is the same way. And so there's ways around that.
And on a side note, you know, talking about different targeting, because I get this, I get asked this a lot. Is, in my opinion, is you can get free of the SSP, but you can still be targeted. But if your awareness gets high enough, you can kind of be no longer worth their time to try and target you because you see it coming and you can do stuff to prevent it. Do you think that that's a reality, or do you think that's kind of like a psyop where they're making you think you're getting free and you're not free?
It sounds grandiose to me, so I'm skeptical. It sounds grandiose. So I can decide whether they take me or not. The people that can travel time and teleport into my bedroom with spaceships and can have access to all my cameras in my home, that are running the government and have access to nuclear and free energy, I can just make up in my mind that my consciousness is high and now they can't touch me anymore. Doesn't really hold a lot of water to me. You know, it just sounds too grandiose. I think if they want to mess with you, they're going to mess with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think it's set up in our government to be perfectly legal for them to do whatever they want. We see people. I mean, there's people disappearing today. You know, it's happening. It's a phenomenon. All the UFO scientists are disappearing rapidly right now, and other
Right.
whistleblowers too. People are dropping like flies right now, and it's not because anybody's got a higher consciousness than anybody else. We live in a 3D realm that's got consequence.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Because I was just curious because that seems to be a thing that's driving a wedge in the SSP community. Is some people are saying, "Yes, I'm free. You know, I'm no longer being taken," and others are like, "Oh, you're always going to be taken." And so I was
Well,
like, "How do you
well, they
know which
leave you
side is
alone.
right?"
You know, most people get finished. I'm also skeptical of people that say that I was taken every single night for a 20 and back, or I would take it every night and I'm working. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I have to look at what are you doing now? You know, like why are you? Why are they taking you? That's the first thing I'm looking at is it your genetics? Do you have the uncanny ability to do something that nobody else can? What there's more to it that you have to fill out the puzzle pieces to see the picture. And a lot of people have no answer when you start asking them a puzzle piece. I'm like, come on, you got to make it make sense. Help me help you here. Help me to help you. If you're being taken every night, I need to know why. What's going on when you're taken? You know, and a lot of people think that this is some kind of fast road to fame and attention, and it's not. It's really not.
It's quite
You
the
know,
opposite.
yeah, it's a fast road to getting harassed by your neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I pointed out in the beginning, it's like of the show, I was like, you coming forward, you were harassed. Your life was miserable here, just as much over there.
My kids were harassed.
Yeah.
That's what hurt.
Yeah.
So I can take it when everybody calls me crazy, which you can go to my Instagram and there's a collaborated reel on there. It's like 14 million people looked at it. And if you read the comments, it's a roast. They just roast me. And I can handle that. They have every right to. You have every right to like me or not like me. But I'll tell you what, my kids went to school and the kids were picking. I saw your dad on YouTube talking about aliens, and my kids went through that. And that's what really hurt. A lot of people don't realize it, but it's like I lost a lot of my old high school friends because they think I'm crazy. They don't believe in ETs or, hyper, whatever, label people. But I lost a lot of friends and a lot of my family too. And some people that I thought would never like me were turned into fans. So, I mean, karmically, it's a give and take. But there was a price here. This isn't a glorious thing to do.
Right. Which again, I'll go back to my first statement of I don't know why people want to claim this because it's like you're a glutton for punishment to want to claim this.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you what, man to man, you have a duty. If you have memories and you can prove that this stuff is happening to people, you have a duty to other people to let them know. We start the very first technology they've established is secrecy. That's the very first thing. It doesn't matter if they have free energy and anti-gravity and spaceships. That doesn't matter. They have secrecy. And so they can keep doing it. And if if you witness something and you can prove it, then you have a responsibility to share it with people because we're all in this together. That people think that what happened to me was just me because I'm dumb luck. But the reality is that a lot of people are being taken, people are being abused, sexually abused, genetically abused, physically and emotionally abused. People are dying. And nothing has happened and nothing is happening about it. And most of the reason that they get away with it is because nobody knows that it even exists. That's why the secret of ETs is, they're going to tell us it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people, a lot of scientists.
Well, and to me, one of the things that's going to be the most uncomfortable is if we sever an arm in the programs, they can regrow the arm and keep you going and functioning. But that technology has been kept from humanity. And it's like that to me is going to be like the hardest pill for people to swallow to go, we can make you fit. We can make you totally healthy. We can make your body run perfectly well. But we're just not allowing you to. And it's like people, I think, when they hear that I think, to my mind, would be like, oh no, the switch is flipped, and I am no longer on this page, and you have really upset me, and oh
I
no.
would be happy. I say it all the time. I don't need the med bed. I would just be happy if they quit poisoning us. I'd be happy
Right.
if they just quit giving us stuff that's trying to kill us. I think that would be a big effect rather than the super high tech stuff. But it'll come where the human lifespan is going to get longer in the next 50 years. There might come our kids might live to be 200.
I don't know. We might actually return to our normal lifespans.
You got a
Which
great bunch of people in the chat. I've been kind of watching it. It's not super active, but it's like everybody's pretty cool in there.
I like my chat group being small and being to the show because I've gone on other shows where they have this large audience and large viewership, and you look at the chat room and they're like, "Oh, so what are you doing this weekend? Oh, what are you having for dinner?" And I'm like, they're not even paying attention to the show. And the show host will say, "Yeah, I have to get on them every so many months to wind them back in and say, hey, you're being rude to the guest. You got to focus on the show." My group, they stay focused on the show, and they do say hello to each other. But I'm like, hey, that's being social, and I'm okay with that. But they stay tuned to the show, and I appreciate that.
I've been in shows where people were mean in the chat. And I kind of watch it, but don't pay attention. If you're tuning into a show to hate it, I mean, that's who has that kind of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than I don't have anything else new, man. Like I said, I'm putting together this remote viewing stuff, the predictive thing, because you can make some money at it. The remote viewers can be trained to make some money at it, and I'm trying to do that because we live in a money based world. But it works, and
Right.
the system works. What's going on works. We're starting. I got some very high potential stuff coming, so I'm stoked about that.
And
Thanks.
I want to give you a chance to, you said you were cutting back on conferences and everything, but you do have a conference coming up.
We got a couple. I'm going to do one in Tennessee. I believe it's in Nashville, Tennessee. And then I'm going to be doing the GSIC one. Is there one I'm forgetting?
Rise of the Guardians. Aren't you on?
No, I'm not doing Sedona this year. No, yeah, I'm not going to do Sedona this year.
Oh, I thought I saw your name on the roster.
Oh, maybe from last year. I was on it. I did that one last year.
That might have been it.
But I'm doing the GSIC. I'm going to the UK and one in Nashville. There was talk of a couple others, one in Phoenix, and maybe in New York. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of slow down from that. And I still like doing shows like this, like yours. I was doing a lot of them there for a while. Hello. And it's just kind of tapering off. It's time for me to, I think I've told my story a lot. And it's time for me to land some of these planes, these projects I've been working on. I need them to start being finished. And I'm close. I'm very close. I've had a lot of success. And the technology, the stuff that I'm working on is very promising.
Well, as always, I will say I am grateful every time you come on because I honestly will, when I get off, I'll be like, man, I will have a moment where I will sit there and say, I can't believe I just talked with Tony Rodrigues, and put like a little feather in my cap and be like, wow, I'm like, I will have that moment. And then I'm like, okay, back into reality now. And let's, go on.
I got to talk to Michael Call.
But I am so grateful. And I'm that way with all of my guests. And I had one guest come on and they said, well, you have all these other high caliber guests and, I feel so blessed to be a part of it. And I go, you realize you're a guest. So you would be in that high caliber category. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I view all of my guests as high caliber because you each have your own story and your own everything. And I'm just grateful I have the ability to create a safe space for you to share it and that it's mutually appreciated. And
it's important.
Yeah.
It's important nowadays. Like I said, there's a lot of things there's a lot of testimonies coming out that make everything look stupid. And so it's important that people document it and keep the real testimonies with evidence and real phenomenon kind of in sight. Keep the goal in sight. We want disclosure. We have it. We already have it. Like they've already told us about UAPs and everything, but they're keeping the real truth away from us. And everybody knows there's ETs out there. Everybody knows that there's extra dimensional stuff. Everybody knows that the universe is teeming with life, and we've been all influenced. We already know that the elites are doing terrible stuff, the Epstein stuff. Everybody, there isn't anything that they're gonna tell us that most people can't handle. And right now, everybody's ready for it. But they are telling us, but they sure are putting out fake info ahead of
Right.
time. So people
They
fight over.
like to muddy the water before it comes out. So
Exactly
it's
right.
like, I think people will be less likely to believe it when it comes out because they're like, oh, all this muck that came
That's
out first.
exactly right. Oh
Well,
wow.
Tiffany is saying Luna is running an MK Ultra hearing on May 13th. Oh, cool.
Hmm.
And, I know we're running close on time, but I just want to ask you real quick because I don't think I've ever asked you. What do you think of all the people that come out and say, I'm in the secret space program? I went through MK Ultra. Does those two, are they connected and always connected and meaning the same thing? Because I know you had a different path, and so I was just
So
curious of your thoughts.
it was similar in Inyo Kern. It was an MK Ultra style trauma based mind control. I was programmed in a way for the for that program. So it was hardcore programming. That was part of my inspiration for, like I said, Scion. No, they do. They program. We humans are programmable. We all want to think we all want to think like my consciousness got high enough where it's okay. No one can program me, and it's
Yeah.
BS. We are completely programmable, and it can happen against your will as well. The MK Ultra is trauma based programming. People get tortured and get information given to them, and there are they aced it by doing it to people under the age of 5. So there are agents out there that have no idea because they had split alters that carry out code words and do things. It sounds so far out, but it's true. I've met people. I researched it heavily. I know some of the code words, and you can see what happens when you say them to people and they change. They go, oh, fuck, there's somebody in the program.
Yeah.
It's real, man. So that they aced it, the MK Ultra stuff, they perfected it. They can use hypnosis on kids prior to the age of 5, probably in conjunction with some form of abuse, and create alters in people that carry out and have different abilities. That's one. The secret space program factor that you said is absolutely another one. There are people that have different levels of the trauma. And like so I said, when somebody tells me they were in the secret space program and they had no trauma, no abuse, it was just we went up and had a fun time. I did a job and it was great. The food was great. That's not what it's like up there, man. Everybody is kind of kept under heel. It's a military organization, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of trauma for people that go up there. So yeah, I don't discount that. I expect it. I when someone tells me that they were taken into a 20 bag and did all this stuff and came back and they weren't traumatized, that it was great, man. Or they say, yeah, I was traumatized. It was, like glamorize it. I start to see red flags.
And the reason I ask is I had a friend who's a paranormal investigator, and she and her best friend went to Camp Hero and snuck in through the fence, and her friend was walking around on the grounds. And I joined the live feed late, like I didn't know where they were, but I just had this awful feeling, like I was like almost like terrified feeling coming over me watching this, and I was like, where are you? You shouldn't be there. You need to get out of there. And they go, oh, look, a vehicle just drove by and stopped and kind of watched us and went on. I was like, yeah, you're being surveilled. Where are you? And then they finally said, oh, we're at Camp Hero. And I was like, in all caps, you need to get the F out of there. Because I was like, that is not the place to go hanging out and just willy nilly. investigate. And so, do you think because I had that reaction, I was there, or is it because I have knowledge of what went on there that the body can react?
I don't know. You might have just had a hit, a psychic hit of it, or it was a visceral thing. It could have been a memory. I mean, I can't diagnose it for you, but there was something there. If you had a big, if you're emotional about it, that's not something that's typically normal. But if you're close to them and you feel, like a bond with that person, you can kind of get that feeling
Yeah, no,
too.
I can tell you this was the first time watching their live, and I hadn't really interacted much with them, so that I can discount. But it was interesting to me because it's like I had a feeling like I knew the place and that there was something about seeing it that was getting to me and was making, and I was like, and I even said at one point there was like the radio tower building, and I was like, just don't go to the opening in the fence on the left. And it's like, why would I say that? Where would that come from? And so that's where I was like, oh my god, was I there?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that have come forward saying they participated in that experiment. A lot. And people that always said they worked in the Montauk chair and I worked with them and built a timeline, I was always like, I'm not going to be able to help you much because the phenomenon around it is just so out there. The Montauk
Right.
chair is a hopping consciousness
And
technology. So it's hard to
and
draw a
I'll,
straight line with it.
and I'll be honest, that's why I don't like to share that story or experience because it's like I don't want to claim being there from all the sensory and everything of being there because of all the hype around it. It's like I could have easily been manipulated into thinking that and reacting that way. Like you said, was I worried about them? That could be why I went into that mode. And so it's like I try to be very careful when I say this or that, confirmation wise. And so, yeah, I mean, because so many places have been muddied, like you're saying, so many people talking about things at locations. It's like kind of like, I hate to say it this way, but the people that are, quote, late to the game, it's harder for us
To get
to
any
feel
proof,
like we were there because there's so much about it out already.
you know what? There's a lot of people that say have a lot of memories, same as me. But I was in the earlier crew that got researched back when it was really scrutinized. So I was kind of in a window when my testimony would get researched. And that's what's missing with people these days. Everybody's coming forward with their testimony. There's no researching it. And so it's hard for them to build on and keep going. Do you know what I'm saying by that? Like it's hard
Right.
because I had a few supporting things. Hello, Mark. I had a few supporting things that validated me in the beginning because I got researched. And so that carried me on to keep doing shows and keep doing talks and things. But people nowadays are coming out and then there's no research. There's no and so they got nothing else to nothing else to stand on. And I'm not saying it's their fault, but I mean just the genre in general. Like you said, people that are late to it, they don't have the ability to prove their thing by circumstantial evidence the way that I did.
Right. And
Things that nobody heard before. So other whistleblowers saw it and I had overlap, and it was now everything's been said. So you go, yeah, that's cool, but so and so said that. So tell me something I don't know, and it's very hard to do now. There's been a lot of testimony.
right. And two factors that I always point out when people try to claim it is and say, oh, you never did this because you don't have proof. It's like, well, one, it's not like I can go online and print out my dossier and it says, here's the programs I was in, here's my roster, here's everything we
It's a
don't have
felony.
that proof.
No, it's a felony in the United States to hang on to possess classified information. Period. So anybody that says, "Where's your proof?" It's like, My proof is that I'm not in jail. If it's a felony. I had a guy in a conference. There was like 700 people, and I finished my thing, and we were doing a Q&A, and the guy goes, "Your little AI pictures are great, but where's a real picture?
Yeah.
When are you going to give us a real picture?" And I said, "Well, never, because it's against the law. If I had a real picture of the programs, I would be in jail for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's a
And
military."
the other disservice I think that's happening with people who are legit coming out for the first time and trying to get a foothold and get help is like if I go, "Oh, I think I was at Montauk," and you find somebody and they're like, "Well, I was at Montauk. I don't remember you, so you weren't there." And it's like they shut you down. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I'm
"What?"
more traumatized than your trauma. My trauma was more than your trauma, right?
Yeah. And
Well, it
so
comes back to ego. There's a lot of ego. A lot of people went through these programs, and it ruined their life. And they've gone on to live their life of less than what they would have been if they would have been left alone, and they know it. And so they have a kind of a chip on their shoulder, and you see that the egos clash a lot, and that's where all the drama comes from. And I say it, people don't realize that people that are telling their story and they get on stage and they start fighting with other people, you need to realize that seeing an ET is traumatizing, and then going into a program is traumatizing, and then being purposely traumatized, and then going back and having your memories erased. You know what I mean? Like 100% of everybody that's speaking at these conferences has gone through a lot of trauma, and so we're not entirely healthy, on the inside. A lot of people have been through a lot of terrible things, and so we see the drama, and a lot of people have just thrown their heads up and walked away from it. They don't want to hear it anymore. But the reality is that that's what you get with real witnesses, that they're broken. You know, we're not
right.
trained to be up here talking like this. There's no, we don't have a PR agent.
Well, and one thing I'll say real quick and then we'll cut for the night is uh, it's, this is season 4 and season 3. It's like something clicked in my head, and I was like, we have so many years of hearing, yes, the trauma you went through over and over. You're repeating it over and over. I was like, were there no positives? And I would say to somebody, what's a positive that you can take from it? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know that there is a positive. And so I found it's really interesting to go and be like trying to put a positive to a horrible experience, because I feel like, yes, there was trauma. Yes, we did go through a lot, but there are positives that have come because of that. And an example, like I don't know if you're on the page of that, but I would say your work with Scion and doing all of that, that's a positive
There were
from what you went through.
Maple Street Learning is a learning software company that I started that is based on the school I went to on Mars. It was it's the way that they did that. It was adaptive media learning. I started that company. It's awesome. The guys working on it are tripping on how good it is. There's an engineering team, an AI engineering team, and they're like, I heard it from another person, not them. They don't tell me because I'm the client, but I heard it through another person. They're like, dude, they rave about your project. They're like, they can't believe how good this is. These are the guys that are, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so I got that idea on Mars. I took it from them and brought it, remembered it. Scion.com, I would have never done it. But I tell you what, while I was up there were times we had a great time. I had a girlfriend. I had a couple. I was in love up there. I had a beautiful girlfriend. We'd go out and hang out. It wasn't great. It wasn't like I was free. But life goes on. And even guys in the clink have a good day. When I say it like that. So yeah, there were positives, and I learned. And the other thing is, when I got my memories back, before I got my memories back, I was in 2015, a dad raising my kids and struggling. I had an emotional thing, and I thought that I was on this. I was programmed by the media. I was supposed to vote a certain way, work a certain amount, work my life into the grave, and if I hit a number of money, if I hit this number, then I'd be worthy and I should be happy. Right. And that was the programming. That was me.
Right.
I got my memories back and I went, wait a minute. I suffered. I was in a 5x8 cell, 5x10 cell. And I was slave labor and I was beaten, raped, and all this bad stuff happened to me. I do not need a number to be happy. I'm pretty happy right now. And that realization changed my life completely for the better. When I realized that that I didn't have the problems I thought I did. When all of those terrible years came back and all of that being plugged into a machine that electrocuted me and all that stuff, when all that came back to me, I looked at my life that I thought was terrible. I thought I was not living well. But when I compared it to that, I had the memories, and all of a sudden, like I woke up one day and I went, this is awesome. I am so thankful for my life, for my junkie Crown Victoria. And that changed. My life literally changed from that moment. Once I realized that there wasn't a finish line that was going to make me worthy to myself, that I just had to make up my mind that I was worthy to myself, that there wasn't a number that was going to make me successful or happy. I just decided to be happy and regard myself as successful. My life's been great since. So that is what I got out of that time. That was one of the biggest positive, is that my bar for happiness moved from where it was unattainable to down here where it's like I'm just cruising around happy all the time, because I feel like every day is a bonus day.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thanks,
And so, yeah, and so I before I end this, I do have a message for you. It's something that I've kind of grown over the 4 seasons. And so, from my heart and the heart of my shows to you, Tony, thank you for what you're doing for humanity. It's seen, felt, heard, and appreciated. So, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And thank you to everyone in the chat room and everyone that's watching this. Do follow Tony on his website and follow my page, because, as you know, we talked about him coming in May back for another episode. You never know when guests are going to be popping up and returning. So do like, follow, subscribe to both of us, and make it a wonderful day or night. Blessings to you all. Have a great one. And bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks. See you guys next time.